This is part 9 of 13 of our response to Stephen Hargrave's message in the COGR's Revelation series.
And we got a couple of points regarding exegesis, and I just think that they're worth looking at because Steve is one of the three, and we know the three are very important. And if I went to I'm just going to pick a denomination. If I went to a Baptist church and I sat down and I listened to a sermon, and I've done that before, I have never listened to sermons outside of hearing this particular group that have been so exegetically wrong. And yet, as you listen to each one of these lectures, there are multiple mistakes made in regard to the scripture and the interpretation of the scripture. And if these people are indeed apostles, how can that logically be true? It just can't be. You get better preaching, sorry, Steve, you get better preaching from a first-year grad out of seminary than you do from Steve. So
what he's saying is, I'm supposed to make all men see how this mystery relates to God gathering together all things in Jesus Christ. And the intention is that to the principalities and powers in heavenly places, they would know. It's not just talking about spirits. It's talking about the princes of this world. That the princes or principalities and powers in heavenly places, those kings of the earth in high places, would look at the manifold wisdom of God in this plan, and they would say, God is wiser than we. The kings of the earth would look on the church and look at the plan of God and how he reconciles all things in the world, and they would say, that's exactly what I was trying to do, but I couldn't.
The church isn't run that well. Just as an organization. I don't think their investments or their bookkeeping or their, the order that they're so proud of and stuff. It's not something that leaders of business and rulers of nations are looking to get their consultation on leadership by any means. I don't know what he's referring to. It's a fantasy.
Yeah, I found it interesting that he was kind of going along, and then he said, "Well, it's not just the heavenly powers," and then he switches the entire scenario. It's like a sleight of hand, and all of a sudden, in a passage that refers quite specifically to principalities and powers as being in heavenly places, we wind up with kings and earthly rulers. It's almost as if they want to take everything in Scripture, whether they be angels or whether they be whatever, and bring it into this realm as like a placeholder. An angel is a placeholder for a person. Well, most commentators don't see it that way. Scripture doesn't see it that way. But suddenly angels become Ray, or they become Dan, or they become the four that are holding back the winds. Yeah. All these people are made to be something that is represented in the book of Revelation as a heavenly being. So here he's gone into Ephesians, talked about principalities and powers, and converted it into the kings of the earth. I think it's an illegitimate use of the scripture, and I just there are several other places in scripture, because I took a moment to look, where we see those similar terms to principalities and powers being used in a spiritual sense. Colossians 1:6, Colossians 2:15, Romans 8:38, and 1 Corinthians 15:24 all have references to principalities and powers that are obviously spiritual powers. So I just see that as a misuse of scripture. And I don't even know why he would do that. Well, I do know why, because it makes his point that they're so special that what they're doing is going to take Bill Gates and knock him on his heels.
Right. They're just wanting to be the name above most names. Name above
Yes.
all names but one.
Yeah, and Bill Gates is gonna, what did he say, bow down to at Ray Tinsman's feet? They made that claim.
Yeah, sure they did. That sounds on brand.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably so.
This concludes our video. Thank you for joining us. The resource slides go by rather quickly for sake of time. You may wish to pause on them to read them. There is a link in the description box to the Google Classroom where you will find the resources for this video.
Disappointment is a bitter pill to swallow, paying back the hope I borrowed from someone I never knew. And it's a forfeit, humans in the suits of heroes, undressed by whispered conspiracies in quest for the truth. But if the truth is what you're looking for, you don't get to choose the answers anymore. So tell me, do you really still believe that the truth will set you free? I do. Someday, well, if the truth is what I'm looking for, I don't get to choose the answers anymore. So tell me, do I really still believe that the truth will set me free?